Hello kindred longevity lifestyle designers, this is Zach here with secrets of longevity in humans.com as well as martin-kilgour.com. This video series that I'm doing here is a very general topic but pretty specific to male sexual health as well as hormonal health, specifically as years go by, specifically around a time that some men experience something that's not totally recognized in the medical field, but it's come to be known as andropause. And it's not something that I'm experiencing at this point in my life, but it is something I'm interested in looking into because it's long-term. That's something that I don't want to have on my radar whatsoever. So this video is for men of any age, whether you're in the midst of something like this, whether you're just interested in hormonal health in general. But I also feel that this video series is fantastic for women because there's little tidbits that do apply to women in what I'm going to be talking about. And generally, women can get benefit from this by being able to apply it in their life with their partner, give their partner information, and specifically some of the things I'll go into detail about phytoestrogens and xenoestrogens are definitely applicable to them because we do live in a time where unfortunately we have a vast amount of toxic influence from the environment, environmental toxins from plastics which are bombarding our body with xenoestrogens. Then we have excessive amounts of phytoestrogens from some so-called health foods which have been touted by many people in the last couple decades as being healthful, but we've gone overboard with them. They were originally used for medicinal purposes to tone the hormonal system, but they're now being taken in as regular staple foods when they really shouldn't be touched or used in that way except by individuals who have experience with dealing with those issues. So with anything I'm talking about today, if you're in a unique or critical stage of a health issue that's pertaining to hormonal health, I would highly recommend seeing a very good bioidentical hormone specialist. Bioidentical hormones are the safest way to use hormones from plants. They're not as damaging to the body as some of the synthetic hormones that are often prescribed by doctors that aren't aware of the long-term effects of these. But these have been studied in great detail, and we know for sure that things like Premarin, which is an extract of the urine from pregnant mares, which are horses, female horses, causes a lot of problems for women, a whole slew of side effects, whereas in that case, if you were to be taking a phytoestrogen type compound prescribed to you in a set specific dosage by someone who's already monitoring your blood levels of these different hormones, it's going to be a lot more compatible with your body. When the topic of hormones comes up, a lot of people get into sort of an iffy state around it because they've had a lot of negative press surrounding them, and that's specifically around the synthetic hormones. And there's actually quite a bit of propaganda out there by certain industries that are against the rising popularity in these natural hormone replacement therapies such as bioidentical hormones and other natural products that are safer because it threatens their market basically. So my recommendation is to be open-minded about that, explore that topic or that field if you're needing that specifically. I know at the Hippocrates Health Institute they have a bioidentical hormone doctor on their staff. I listened to her lecture. She was a fantastic speaker. I talked with her about a few different things, and it was very interesting. I mean, it's an emerging field, and it needs to be looked at with some not so much skepticism or fear that we might have accrued from hearing press about hormones over the years and abuse of anabolic steroids and things like this. It's a completely different area of study than those synthetic, isolated type toxic compounds. So to kick off, we're going to talk about male ejaculation and the effect that that has on the physiology. I've talked about this in previous videos, so if you want to recap, you can watch a 5-part video series on raw food, libido, and sexual health. And this starts at video number 63. If you search Secrets of Longevity as one word in YouTube, and then space pound or the number sign 63, you'll get number 1 for that. However, I go into detail on ejaculation a little bit, starting on video number 4 out of those series of 5. But let me start from the beginning. So this idea of retaining or eliminating ejaculation as a male is definitely seen with some skepticism in our society today, and that's partly due to the urge for our society to break free of the bonds of the past. And I definitely think that we need to let go of some negative aspects that came with religion, cultural values, taboos, and things like this. But there were definitely some wisdom along with a lot of these traditions, which is like throwing the baby out with the bathwater. And the act of retaining ejaculation was definitely more acknowledged in those days because people were much more active. They lived very hard lives in many of the cases. For example, if you were a farmer and you were working every day of your life, you didn't really have holidays except for maybe some of the festival times of the year, like harvest time. You didn't really get a break on the weekend. You worked long hours during the day. You couldn't afford to indulge in excessive pleasures that left you drained, so to speak, the next days. You couldn't drink excessively. You wouldn't be able to have long nights with your lover, expelling your seed in that way, unless you were specifically intending to have a child, and that's what it was used for. That's what ejaculation is actually used for. I have a strong feeling about this because I believe at the core of the disregard for the power in the seminal fluid that men have, at the core of this issue is men not taking responsibility for their seed, and you see it today in men not taking responsibility for what their seed creates. I know a number of single mothers that are dear friends of mine, and they're people in my lives, and I see the results and the way these men treat these single mothers, the fathers of these children. They're disappearing from the scene, so to speak. They're not taking responsibility for what they've created. They blame it on the mother for making the choice of having the child, yet they don't take any part in the responsibility of their own seed. In many cultures, there were old wives' tales associated with male sexuality and the excessive abuse and misuse of the energies associated with that. And some of these things have been disregarded and thought of by current sexual psychologists and people in that field of academia as being things we have to let go of. However, there's certain truths about it that even I only just recently came to realize. Things like you can go blind from masturbating and ejaculating, things like you get stupid by doing that. Also, ideas like from Taoism that women gain power from men when they ejaculate inside of them. These are often disregarded as folk tales and just stuff of the imagination that has no bearing on reality. However, over the course of this series, I'm going to talk about some of the biological processes of how these might possibly be true to some degree. Obviously, yes, we know that people can engage in excessive sexual indulgence and they can go years without seeing any issues. They might never see issues of that depending on what their diet's like, what the rest of their lifestyle's like. However, excess in any area of your life, when it's combined with many other areas, leads to imbalance in the long run. We know that for certain from practical life experiences. So that's sort of the traditional thoughts around it. And I like, from my perspective of everything I look at, I like to look at things from a traditional sort of cultural standpoint. Also the intuitive life experience standpoint, which is your own intuition and instinct. Then there's also obviously the scientific, factual standpoint, which is very important. And then there's the recommendations by past experts on the matter. And so we can combine all of these together to get a very holistic way to approach life and to approach new information. So I've talked about the cultural and past folk type ideas around male ejaculation. Now the instinctual or very practical, logical, without any scientific fact information could be that we know that ejaculation is for the purpose of procreation. why would we want to use it otherwise?